are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Edwards on Twitter. Here talking today the latest Auburn athletics news as we have some recruiting news to talk about. And, of course, sorry for missing the show on Thursday. I was a little under the weather and I had a sore throat. Could not talk at all. But we are back right here for another episode of the College Loop Podcast. Recruiting has been a massive discussion point this offseason. When is Auburn going to pick up some steam? When is Auburn going to actually start adding on commits? When is Auburn going to jump up from being 80th in the country? And Auburn has now made a steady jump yet again after the commit of four-star wide receiver Jase Mathews at Greene County High School in Leakesville, Mississippi. A top 15 wide receiver in the class 2026, a number 6 overall player in his state, and of course a top 117th in the nation. A massive commit for Auburn, picking up a 6'2", 180 wide receiver with some great hands and some shiftiness to him as well. Jase Mathews chooses Auburn over LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, Colorado. And again, just a massive pickup for Auburn in a class that desperately needed a wide receiver after losing 2. And so Auburn now with their 4th four-star of the class, Auburn now up to 54th in the nation and just a couple more pieces away from getting right back to where they were inside the top 25. But look at Jase Mathews' game. So last year, he caught almost 70 passes for 1,138 yards, 15 touchdowns, also throwing for a touchdown and running one in himself, and also averaged about 27 yards per return on 10 kickoff attempts. Multi-sport athlete, plays basketball and competes in track and field. Just a very talented overall athlete. And one of the biggest things I saw when watching his film is just how shifty he is after the snap. This dude is elusive and he's an outstanding route runner. And he really emits a lot of KLS in this, where he's not built on how fast he is. He's not gonna outrun you, but he's gonna outmaneuver you and make big plays. And that's something you really enjoy about watching. And of course, KLS is an all-time legend. And for Auburn, I'd put him in he honestly might be in the top 4 Auburn receivers ever, in my opinion. I think just the season he had last year just emits that. And had he just had 20 more yards, he would have been, retire the number at that point. Absolutely phenomenal season KLS and having great preseason this far. But yeah, I see that game a lot in Jase Mathews here. His ability to make guys miss and, make a great catch in the process. The scouting report on 24/7 does say he is prone to making about 1 or 2 circus catches per game. And again, something KLS did pretty often for Auburn as well. But yeah, that's something that I really enjoy about his game is just how much he emulates KLS. And I think that's something that really bodes well because I don't want to say that's something Auburn's missing, but, whenever Eric Singleton, if he goes to the draft or Horatio Fields, you're going to be missing out on those guys who are those for sure catchers, I guess, for sure receivers, those guys who, have hands like glue. And of course, Cam Coleman, had the case of a drop earlier in his freshman year, but then turned that around immensely. And then, of course, we have not got to see Perry Thompson, who is due for a breakout season in 2025, get a chance to show off his hands. But we'll get to this year. But yeah, Jase Mathews, a massive, massive pickup for this 2026 class. Again, 54th in the country, not where you want to be, but definitely steps in the right direction. I think the biggest name right now that Auburn is focusing on is Braylon Womack, the 5-star safety, currently crystal ball to go to Ohio State out of Mississippi as well. Number 1 safety in the nation and a top 15 player overall. Would be a massive pickup for Auburn if they were able to swing this. Currently, he's listed as, again, crystal ball to Ohio State. A&M and Florida are also very hot on the trail as well, trying to swing Braylon Womack. But doing some math here, I did find that if Auburn were to pick up Womack, Auburn would jump from 54 all the way up to 34, which again, the Harsin era had this thing where it's like picking up the best guys, but the best fits or something like most talent, not the best guys, not the something stupid. The right guys are the best guys. There you go. And if Hugh Freeze continues to build up a class with guys as talented as Jase Mathews is, 25th is not a bad landing spot. Auburn doesn't need to have a top 10 class to compete in the SEC. And of course, one thing that Hugh Freeze has done very well, and he's relied on it less and less throughout the years, but he has done a very good job of filling out the rest of the holes he needs with the transfer portal. So even getting the top 25 would be an absolute great step in the right direction for just how slow and just lack of momentum that the recruiting space has held. But it does seem like everyone is excited, and as they should be. Jase Mathews is an absolute great prospect to get, but I think everyone is now kind of seeing the vision now that there's actually proof of concept that recruiting is going to turn around in August at least. And of course, Braylon Womack does commit on August 21st. Hopefully, would commit to Auburn, but he is crystal ball to Ohio State. Kind of hard to choose. Kind of hard to be a DB in high school and pick against one of those teams that are in the DBU conversation. But I think Auburn does have a decent argument for that. If probably not on the same level as like an LSU or Ohio State, but Auburn is definitely in that realm. I mean, Carlton Davis right now, Nehemiah Pritchett just got like 2 interceptions in the game just this week. So yeah, super stoked for all the Auburn guys that are making their NFL dreams a reality. So let me know what you think of Jase Mathews in the comment section below. Quick little break, and then we're going to preview Auburn's linebackers going into the 2025 season. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
So you can get those on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop and get your very own college loop merch today. So, and of course, I got to add in the point where, I love the merch. The merch is awesome. But it's not the best way you support the channel. The best way you support the channel is, of course, by liking the videos, by commenting on the videos, and, of course, by subscribing to the channel, letting us know what you think of the Auburn recruiting world right now. So, Auburn's linebackers is a talking point because, honestly, out of the defense, I think we're the least sure of what the linebackers are going to look like this season. I mean, the D-line has, most of the guys have been here for a while. I mean, Bobby Travis is looking to finally emerge as a starter, as the guy on the defensive line. You have some freshmen like Malik Autry and Jordan Crawford, who are absolutely standing out already in fall camp and were standing out in spring as well. Edge rushers, Kieran Crawford saw him last year, started to break out late in the season. Keldrick Falk, of course, one of the best players in Auburn football history, if you ask me, getting that point. And then the secondary, I think the secondary, while being young, does have a lot to offer for Auburn going forward. I think, Jay Crawford being one of the best DBs in the SEC, and then you added Rayon Strader, who was a top DB in the nation last year at Miami, Ohio, and added Rayshawn Pleasant, who has been having a lot of great highlights come out of practice. I think there's been a lot of big focal points on Rayshawn Pleasant up to this point. But the linebackers, there are names all over the place that Auburn is fairly aware of. And no one knows exactly how this group is going to play. The linebackers are such an important position on the field for the defense. They're the people that you put in charge of calling the plays. They're the captains of the defense. And, it's been a few years in a row where Auburn has kind of, what's the linebacker room going to look like? And, it's after a certain point, you have Eugene Asante. Okay, well, who's going to help out Eugene? Well, you have Eugene and Austin Keys. Who's going to help out them? And like last year, Dorian Mausi had a great year and kind of broke out of nowhere. I don't think anyone was really expecting that. A few years ago, I think Larry Nolan did a good job of kind of stepping out too. So this year, you don't have a Eugene Asante anymore. You have some dudes that you are fairly aware of. Robert Woodyard Jr. coming back for another year, hopefully getting his chance to kind of be like a Bobby Travis and stand out, which he has been thus far. DeMarcus Riddick, a true freshman last year who had some great moments, looking to be a starter this year. And then you add in the new guys. You got Caleb Wheatland, the transfer out of Maryland, who was a for sure tackler last year, had about 47 tackles last year for the Terrapins. And then, of course, adding Xavier Atkins, a younger guy who didn't get a lot of playing time at LSU, but, transferred over to Auburn and looks to be the part. And then freshman Bryce Diaz, one of my favorite guys that Auburn was able to bring in from Maryland as well. I mean, the state of Maryland in high school, absolutely athletic linebacker build. Definitely one of those guys that, whenever I'm playing NCAA 14 or in college football 26, I guess would be the better term there. One of those linebackers that, are so fast and so fun to play with. And, just a guy you can trust to cover a running back out of the backfield or, put the spy on the quarterback. And lastly, Elijah Melendez, who is if you're looking at Elijah Melendez, all the pictures I've seen of him from practice, dude, it's hard to believe to me that he's a freshman. That dude is massive, and he's been an absolute standout as well. But again, this linebacker room, again, big question mark in terms of what they're going to be in 2025, but I think they're going to be a very underrated group in terms of the SEC. I've been very confident in how I feel about this defense. This defense has the potential to be a top 5 in the SEC. I think that's potential to be a top 20 defense in the country. They're just that good. I think Durkin has built up a very highly touted defense, and it looks the part. And this linebacker room is no exception. There we go. Words. English is my first language, I swear. But this linebacker room is legit. And I love DeMarcus Riddick. He was one of my favorite pickups from that 2024 class. And dude is just an athletic freak. And I think he's going to have a chance to really stand out this year. I mean, he was my focal point for this Auburn defense of the past 2 SEC games last year. It was Marcel Reed and Jalen Milroe. Someone's got to be able to catch up and contain them, and DeMarcus Riddick did just that. So I'm super stoked to see DeMarcus Riddick and how he will emerge again after a year of development. I'm excited to see Caleb Wheatland. I think being a guy and him kind of mixed with Robert Melendez, those guys being kind of the middle linebacker roles, being the bigger run stuffer guys. I do enjoy what they offer. I think that with the SEC, you either have a defense likes to pass the ball a lot or the team likes to run the ball a lot. And I think having 2 very big linebackers in the middle, you have that with these 2. And Caleb Wheatland, again, just a absolutely talented guy. He was a late pickup for Auburn, and it's kind of a shocker out of nowhere for me. But you get a guy who's 6'1", 230, and can make any tackle on the field. Absolutely great pickup there for Auburn. I'm going to be super stoked to see how the freshmen play, because I do believe Elijah Melendez and Bryce Diaz are going to see a fair share of the field this season. And Elijah Melendez, dude, I think is going to stand out right away, just because of how good he has been thus far and how good he was in high school. Dude was an absolute dog. And I think one of my favorite tweets was it was like the Auburn Twitter took a picture of like him practicing, and his eyes, like he has like murder in his eyes is what it was. Like he looks like he wants to hurt somebody. And that's something that I love out of a linebacker. I love that tenacious linebacker. And like I was on the Warport Thursday, and we were drafting all-time Auburn defensive players. I picked Nick Fairley and Takeo Spikes in my 1 and 2 draft picks. I was going to get Junior Rosegreen in my 3rd pick, but it got taken right before me. I love those tenacious defensive players. That's one of my favorite parts of watching the defense play is, I spend most of my teenage years watching highlight videos of the hardest hits in college football, hardest hits in the NFL. And Elijah Melendez looks like he's going to pop the mess out of somebody. And again, we're less than 20 days away from Auburn football being back on our TVs. And I think you're going to get a fair dosage of Elijah Melendez versus Baylor. I think he's going to pop somebody. And this linebacker room, I swear. I mean, they start out slow. It wouldn't surprise me just because I think this unit as a whole is the question mark of the defense. But it's not a big question mark like it has been in recent years. Like last year, we were like, okay, we have Austin Keys and Eugene Asante, but if they have to come out, who's going in? I think Auburn has built up a very solid depth of linebacker here that can get Auburn going in the right direction in terms of consistently playing defense. Something they didn't really do last year was, they ended up the year very well, but, they were still giving up a decent number of points per game and letting teams kind of do whatever, which could have been an issue with the bad offense too. But, just kind of breaking down late in the game. I think depth-wise, Auburn is a lot deeper than they were last year. And with that being a bunch of young guys, who knows how that kind of bodes for the older teams of the SEC whenever they come to Jordan-Hare or Auburn travels. It's gonna. I'm still stoked about this year. I think it's gonna be a great year for Auburn football. I think it's gonna be a great year for this Auburn defense, and this linebacker room is again no exception to that. I'm super stoked. DeMarcus Riddick, I think, is going to have a breakout year. I think he is going to be a national name, if not national, SEC caliber, like level name, where people are going to understand Auburn. Auburn is defensively back whenever they get on the field. Offensively, again, that bodes a whole other question. But I'm very high on this Auburn defense. I am excruciatingly high on this Auburn defense going into this year. You almost lose DJ Durkin, and I don't want to say almost lose, but you had to make a big offer to keep him around for a little bit longer. So you get him back, and then of course he makes those big time pickups in the transfer portal, and you start to see that development going in the right direction at the end of last year, and it just kind of meshes together to form a unit that is going to be very, very fun to watch next year. But yeah, I love this linebacker room. And again, I think like tackle leader, I would love to see DeMarcus Riddick be the tackle leader this year. I don't know how with how he plays, if that's going to be the case. It's going to be mostly the contained guy for those dual threat quarterbacks. But again, if it's not him, I think it's going to be Robert Woodyard or Caleb Wheatland. It's going to be one of those three guys leading Auburn in tackles this year. But let me just in the comment section below, what do you think is Auburn linebacker room? Who do you think is going to lead the defense in tackles at the end of the 2025 season? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's going to do some of the College League podcast. Of course, I'm Larck Reporting on Twitter. Here, dog. I almost did the whole intro again. Oh my Lord. So with that being said, I'm Larck Reporting on Twitter. Of course, you find me on Instagram as well at Larck, DYLENLARCK. You can also find me on here at Tank Talks Football, trying to get that page started, but I've been so swamped at work. But of course, Instagram as well at Tank Talks Football, and TikTok at your boy Tank. Of course, right here, the College Loop on YouTube. If you like, comment, subscribe. Yet again, don't forget to check us out on social medias: Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, the works. All those at the College Loop. Audio versions of the show available on Spotify, Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube yet again. Well, that being said, thanks for tuning in to some of the College Loop podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle.